The following is an interview with Vietnam veteran and sapper Michael Woodhams. The focus of our conversation was the ethical dilemmas of conscription, which required us to talk about Michael's life before, during and after the Vietnam War. This interview connects to a previous video I created about conscription, which I'll link to in the description and at the end of this video. We spoke for over an hour and a half, but I've tried to distill the video down to just its most impactful moments and included their surrounding context. This was an opportunity for Michael to tell his life story, so it may be most interesting to the people that know him personally and have always wondered about this portion of his life. I hope you enjoy.
My name is Michael John Woodhams, born on the 8th, 6th, 1945, St John of God, Subiaco.
When the Australian government passed the National Service Act of 1964, were you worried your birthday might be chosen, and how did you feel about that possibility?
In 1964, I was in my second year diesel mechanic apprentice with mum and dad and the rest of the family living in Perth. Okay. Then I turned 18, so I was in the fourth year of apprenticeship, and I got a notification because I was boarding with a private family, the Freers in Carnarvon still, and it says you have been called up, on the marble ballet. Well, they pulled a marble out of the barrel, mate.
Yep.
And if your birthday is on that marble, you are eligible. A month later, I have a notification delivered to the workshop that I'm to report to the Carnarvon District Hospital. Well, I was fit as, anything, still 18.
Yeah.
So he fills that all out and sends it to the army. Say another 6 weeks takes time. You have been selected for service but been deferred until your apprenticeship is finished. My apprenticeship finishes on the 27th of January of 67. I come to Perth in a big Foden truck off the company with one suitcase and a box of tools. And they say yes, and they gives me a aeroplane ticket, flying Qantas, to go home, and you have a week. So I had a week with mum and dad and all the brothers and one sister, and then fly to Melbourne. From there, bus to Puckapunyal. Now, this is on the 17th of April when I fly out of Perth. Mum and dad and the gang see me off. Then I have 10 weeks of recruit training at Puckapunyal. And I loved it and that, and enjoyed it because I was pretty fit.
Yeah.
I could handle the discipline. Had to march out at the end of the 10 weeks, and mum and dad flew over from Perth to be there. Got called up to the main office as preference to corps. I chose infantry, and second choice was engineers. So a week later, comes out, you are going to engineers. So I go there for about another 10 weeks doing engineer training, which is basic mines, bridge building, everything general engineering, even boats, small landing craft.
I didn't realise that the engineers did that as well.
Yes, mate. Still in Vietnam. You heard of riverines? And all right.
Yeah, true.
But
when they said, yes, you're going to be signed up to the army, but they gave you 2 years to finish your apprenticeship.
Yes.
Did you feel gratitude towards them, or did you feel like you were annoyed?
No.
No?
That did not worry me at all, because after 5 1/4 years cooped up in a workshop, I wanted to be like the Boy Scouts and get out to the camp.
Yeah.
It was like a break.
Yeah.
But when I did leave Carnarvon, I left my beautiful 650 BSA behind. Miss Carnarvon, I was trotting her out. She was crowned by Wilson Tucky.
Yeah.
My lovely FC Holden with a spare tyre on the boot, with a big tail light in the hubcap.
Yeah, I think I know the one.
All sold because I was quitting.
Yeah.
That part of my life was over then.
Yeah.
Your holiday is over. It's time to go to jungle training because you've already been nominated for Vietnam. So on the train again from Sydney to Brisbane. we were on a 10-mile march with full gear and rifles and a 60. It may have been 10 Ks then, okay, with a corporal running alongside. He only carries a water bottle. And there was a little, like the runt of the platoon, because they were all corps, not all just engineers. And I didn't even know him. And someone had passed him the M60 machine gun, which weighs 14 pound, 800 kilos, right? And he was battling, because if the whole course cannot finish the course, you will all start again tomorrow.
Yep.
Okay, so he was battling. So I caught up to him and I took the gun off him, and then he caught up with us. So at the end of the 10 mile or 10 Ks, the corporal pulls me aside and he said, I saw that, and he said, I'm going to let it slide, because he said, you're the sort of man I'd want in my section. This corporal had already done Borneo or Vietnam, as in 67, so we all passed. My sister sewed my rising sun flashes on my thing, all machine embroidered.
Yeah.
Most soldiers only had spider web sewing,
Yeah.
with their rising sun.
Yeah.
So I left on about the 12th of December, 67. Miss Carnarvon saw me off at the airport with all the gang. That was the last time I ever saw her. I did get a couple of letters, but they faded, but I never saw her.
Yeah.
So back to Sydney in the holding bay for about a week and took off for Vietnam. Then on a unload, then in a Chinook down to Nui Dat. And then I was assigned to 1 Field Squadron 3 Troop at Nui Dat.
Can you tell me a little about your thoughts and emotions that you felt on the day that you received your draft notice?
Yes, like I say, it was a big Boy Scout excursion, venture to go out camping, see the world. I had no commitments. I had a trade. I had money in the bank. No, I was not worried or concerned at all. My father had served in Palestine and Egypt, then Malaya and Borneo. He knew all about it. Mum didn't like it too much. So...
Did you support the war in Vietnam?
I had nothing against it either way. Just being a country pumpkin from Wiluna and Carnarvon.
Okay.
I only finished, 3 years high school.
Yeah. Prior to your conscription, did you think it would ever happen to you?
No.
No.
And I've never given it a thought. Carnarvon is a backwater, 612 miles from Perth.
Yeah.
I'd heard about it.
You said that your father was happy, but your mother was a bit concerned?
Yes. Didn't like it.
Yeah. Did any, you've got 8 brothers and 1 sister.
Yep.
Did anybody else feel this way or that about
No, they were all still going to school. Well, my eldest brother had started a apprentice panel beating. That's Hector. So Christmas come, I got a nice bag off the American Red Cross. Pocket knives, playing cards, biros, chewing tobacco, candy bars, all the little goodies. I still have that green canvas bag. Cake off Mum and Dad, and Paul Rigby's cartoon book, which had a sapper on a bloke on the cover, with a kangaroo.
Yeah, another one.
And a sand, I still got that too.
Yeah, right.
So all our Viet Congs and NVAs are having a God meeting, It's a Tet offensive, so we'll all have a little holiday break.
Yeah.
But they broke the treaty and the Tet offensive really started on the 26th of January. So they said, put your tip truck back in the yard and come and join the soldiers. You are now combat sapper. All engineers are sappers. So I never saw the tip truck again either.
You sad about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was still getting the extra $2 bob a day anyway.
That's all right then.
Yeah, go on.
Sorry, when you arrived in Vietnam, what were your first impressions like landing there?
Yes. Hot and sticky and smelling of aviation fuel. there was a plane, helicopter, or that landing at Tonsanut every 12 seconds, either coming or going, or 1 minute, every less than 12 minutes.
Right.
And hot and sticky, because
Yep.
it was a dry season, which is totally different from the monsoon season.
Sure is.
And crowded, because they had 500,000 Yanks there by then. Also helping the civilians, building culverts and bridges and roads, win their heart and minds. But I learnt that if you grab them by the balls, their heart and minds will follow. But you're not
How'd you learn that? Just through
a
experience.
naughty corporal told me. But that's not the political,
No, not meant to say that.
No.
But that's the realities of it.
Yeah,
Um,
you put the pressure on them, they'll follow.
yeah. So how did you and your mates cope with the challenges of being in that war zone?
Being only a sapper, you don't have much of a say. A corporal is right there with God, except you've got 2 stripes. And you never told the sergeant to get nodded, let alone speak to the LT or the captain. A captain is as high as you go in a squadron commander,
Yep.
We had a major which was in charge of all the squadrons, like an engineer, but you hardly ever saw him, but we'll get to him later.
So what were some of the most difficult moments that you experienced whilst you were over there?
Patrolling, assisting infantry, looking for mine traps, clearing Highway 1 up to the Yankee checkpoint. So we're riding on APC out front looking for any malfunctions or suspicious. One day we come upon and there's a body lying on the bitumen road. Cav commander tells me and my mate to go and check this out. He's dressed in civilian clothes and his hands are tied behind him back with a big twitch stick, which is 4 foot of wood behind him. So I put a little grappling hook on him and turned him over from 20 feet back in case he had a booby trap underneath him or something is rigged. No, there wasn't, but his throat had been cut. So back to report, I didn't go through the body, so the armoured cav man rings up the local village. So they come down, not Arvin, popular forces or regional forces, PG or RG forces, that's like militia, but not Arvin, Army for the Republic of Vietnam.
Yeah.
And they say, yeah, that's the village headman. So one's driving a tuk-tuk and they grab him by the head and by the feet and the shoulders. And like I say, his throat had been cut. So when they grabbed him by the shoulders, his head falls off
Right.
completely.
Yeah.
So the tuk-tuk driver grabs that and puts it in by the hair and puts that in the back of the tuk-tuk bus.
Why did he do that?
Take him back to the village.
Right. Let everyone
But
know.
he's left on the road, for an example. If you want to mess with a VC, you don't pay your taxes, you don't put in your rice ration, you don't volunteer your sons to fight for us. This is the next. So we start with the head man, so you all get the message.
Right. If it can be done to the guy at the top, it can be done to you too.
Yes.
And I didn't realise that the VC were operating that way. They were taxing, using the public to fund their war effort.
Of course. Because also they had a lot of sympathisers, mate. They're not in the army, right? But they sympathise and feed them, nurse them, hide them, weapons caches. That's how the Yanks got into the search and destroy. Just burn the whole village and they'll take the weapons with them,
Right.
Aussies and Kiwis didn't do that.
Can you share any specific memories or stories from the Battle of Coral Balmoral?
Called out with Charlie Company to assist. There was a section of engineers, that is 4 mini teams and a corporal, but assigned to different platoons, sections and companies. So we chop it out there to this fire support base, Coral. Balmoral is later, another 50 mile down the road.
Yeah.
And we're there patrolling, checking inside a big wire with artillery, Kiwi and Aussie. And not bad conditions really. Mail and hot boxes flowing in every third day or something. And we dug a bunker. And then we'd been there about a week. And that night I was inside the wire. The NVA or the VC mortared really heavy. Then they attacked frontal to the wire. I did not fire a shot, but the armour, infantry and artillery blew them, repelled them. They did steal a Kiwi gun, but they got it back the next morning.
Yeah, the Kiwis took it back, apparently.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the next morning, they'd all disappeared.
Yeah.
Well, after they were repulsed.
Yeah.
We went to check the battlefield. Engineers, all of us. So, well, I know we pulled in 67 dead.
Yeah.
NVA and VC. I turned a couple over and went through them.
Yeah.
One had an AK-47, so I unscrewed the bayonet with my pocket knife.
Yeah.
And put the bayonet down my combat boot.
Yeah.
Let's define AK-47s do not come out with a bayonet, but in AK-50 does. 3 years later, they have a factory-fitted bayonet on a spring clip. It's full-time fitted. It's on a spring. That's why I unscrewed it. And I still have it in the shed because I had to hand the weapon in, so that can go to the officer's mess, and hang up above the scotch. And other boys were doing it all too, or I don't know if they were grabbing it. So then we threw all the bodies into a B-52 bomb crater, which is 20, 25 feet deep and is bigger than this room.
Is it as big as a 20-foot sea container, or?
A lot bigger. It's bigger than this room, the bomb crater.
Yeah. Today
it is a rubble field, but it wasn't back then.
Yeah.
It was more paddy fields and light scrub. So before one went in, this is 67, there was an NVA there. You know they're NVA because they have a khaki uniform. And he has a web belt, only canvas belt, but it has a nice aluminium embossed belt buckle.
Yeah, what's it look like?
So I cut it off with my bayonet and put that in my shirt too.
Yeah.
And then he went in the hole.
Yeah.
So then General Westmoreland, the Commander-in-Chief, flew out to say thank you. So I saw him but didn't shake hands, and job's well done, because there was a lot more than 67 killed, but their friends and comrades had dragged them away. You could see the drag marks. And Westmoreland said good, because the majors and the colonels, they fly out then. They got away from the wet mess. And yeah, good job, boys.
Yeah.
So carried on. Then we went to Balmoral, which is about 50, because they were all heading back to North Vietnam. The VC were nearly buggered after the Tet Offensive, but still local cadres or, units, probably hardcore or dedicated. So there was more action and that, but not like Coral.
So Coral, you did more fighting there than at Balmoral?
Yep.
Yeah. And you lost a friend at one of those battles?
Yes, at Coral. He was a very, very good acquaintance from Charlie Company 3 Battalion.
Oh, 3.
He got, yes.
Yeah.
His name was Bill Thomas, and he was the M60 gunner.
Yeah.
And he got a mortar hit right down his foxhole, because being engineers, we had sandbags and a sheet of tin. But his was an open foxhole for the gun.
Yeah.
And yeah, plus there was other casualties beside him, but I knew him personally.
What was the cost of winning Coral Balmoral to you, yourself, and to your unit?
Well, a pocket full of souvenirs, and I think that we won.
Yeah?
And no casualties on the engineer section. It was an experience. I didn't wish to repeat it too often.
What happened to the belt buckle?
My corporal, 3 months later, he knew that I had it, and he was a wheeler and dealer, but he was doing a deal with a Kiwi gunner from the artillery, and he wanted a souvenir. So my corporal come to me with a big stack of Kiwi stamps and other documents and envelopes that he'd taken off at NVA with North Vietnamese stamps on, because I was mad with stamps since I was 8 years old.
Right.
And he said, can you let me have a souvenir? Now, in this packet of documents taken off a dead one, and I don't know, that may not have been at Coral or Balmoral, but it come out of a tunnel, yeah, so it wasn't. Had a little photo and a letter from North Vietnamese of a young lady, girl, wife, sweetheart of that, and I still have that too.
How did that experience and being in a war zone change you?
Well, I don't think I was emotionally scarred or a little bit frightened at the time, but you soon get over it. It's either them or us. I was, fairly well disciplined, coming from a large family and home. Not too much worried me. I was still single and looking forward to R&R.
Yeah.
By then we're up about June now, so I've had my 23rd birthday, and getting for R&R, that's, rock and roll holiday. Yeah. So I went to Hong Kong, went through $500 with Susie the Floozy and the Budweiser.
Yeah. You came back a richer man.
Yes, I bought this ring there.
You've kept a few mementos across your life.
Yes, I sent Mum and Dad a big box of goodies off the China, China dolls and Kim songs and stuff.
How did you maintain a connection with your family back home?
Only by letters.
What sort of things did you guys talk about in your letters? Like, did you tell your parents?
Yes, I told them about the mates getting wounded and.
And what did they tell you about?
Oh, about home, how things are going, because Dad was still working at Ready Mix Quarry up there, mate. Kids going to school. I learnt my sister was married, married the 10-pound pom, but they're still together and happy.
Yeah. And did you miss home hearing about that stuff? Did you want to be home, or were you
happy? No, because the camaraderie ship, conditions weren't too bad, living in a tent, and still plenty of operations, up to the long high hills. I was mine detecting there, still in the right, and my mate was shot in the shoulder. A little regular bloke, Peter McDonald, he lives out at Success Way still today. He was here 3 weeks ago. He had a bit of a yak and that, but he was helicoptered off and went back to Perth or back to the Army base.
Did you get any physical injuries when you were over there?
No.
Lucky. What were your thoughts on the moral implications of conscription at that time?
At that time, I was very, very naive about army life and that then, and I accepted it. Your marble comes out. I didn't have much of conscientious objections. That's why I don't like Cassius Clay or that.
Yeah.
Elvis Presley went. He changes his religious and name, so I've got no time for him.
Looking back on conscription now, have your thoughts changed about it?
Not at all.
Not at all.
I'm totally and 100% for it. But everyone, politicians' kids go first. No marble in the gunny sack. Everyone goes. Millionaires, doctors, sons, unless your lift doesn't go to the top floor and you're shilling short, on a £5 note.
Right, yeah.
But everyone goes for 2 years, not 1 year.
Why is that?
Because I believe we've got the best country in the world and now we're giving it away.
Giving it away to who?
Muslims, immigrants, freeloaders, dole bludgers. You're importing skilled immigrants because they won't work.
Do you?
And the army teaches you a trade, it teaches you a bit of respect. How much respect do you get for the young ones today? You hide the mobile phone from them. They tell the school teacher to get stuffed, the policeman to get stuffed. You wouldn't do that if you'd been in the army for 2 years, when the sergeant takes you behind the mess hall and gives you a lesson in attitude adjustment.
True.
And if you had that today, we'd have less on the streets and and freeloaders and bummers.
You think they should be conscripted or should be
Yes,
eligible?
everyone,
Okay.
from 18 to 20.
How do you feel that your government has treated you post-Vietnam War?
Before,
No, after having returned.
very, very good. To rate it out of 10, I would give it 8.25. No complaints about Army or the government since I've returned.
Is that the government services separate from the government, or
No, that's Veterans Affairs, I mean.
Yeah. And how do you? Okay, on when it comes to politics, you're obviously concerned about immigrants, Muslims, other people freeloading off the system. How do you feel about
today?
Yeah. How do you feel about our politicians in government that you had to go and fight for?
Too many soft cocks. That's what I said. If you sent the politicians' sons first to war, there wouldn't be any wars.
Why is that?
What politician's son has ever been to war?
I understand that post-Vietnam, there was a lot of people that had a problem with the Vietnam War, and the reception of the veterans was not what we would want. How was it for you coming back from the Vietnam War?
I rolled in at midnight to avoid all the protesters at the airport with the 2 kit bags with me, bayonet and bits, and the customs and immigration. He said, "Welcome home, soldier." He said, "Anything to declare?" No. He said, "Great." Passed right on through.
In what ways did your experience in Vietnam shape the rest of your life?
Well, it still does today. Like I say, I shave 362 days a year, reasonably neat and tidy, bit of discipline. I still respect anyone in uniform, more self-sufficient. You know, I've been on my own for 37 years now, but, well, when I come home, I left the Army when I got discharged. It's only a corporal clerk, at the front office.
Yeah.
He said, "Would you be interested in signing up again?" I said, "Oh, not really." He said, "You'll be a corporal tomorrow, but you will have to sign up for another 2 years and do another tour. And we will guarantee you a second stripe." I do not know how a corporal clerk can tell me this over the front counter, but you'll come back a full corporal. But you will have to do another tour. I said, "No, thing." So there's nothing. So I finished Army on Friday and started work on Monday in Vic Park.
Had you had enough of the Army, or you didn't trust that guy's promises?
Not really, and I'd had enough, mate. 2 years away, for a little over a year.
Yeah.
Because I'd done a bit more, about 12 days over a tour.
Yeah.
Boys were killed, wounded, no planes, no bookings.
Yeah. Have you ever spoken about your experiences in Vietnam?
Nothing like this, no. Mentioned it at reunions and with other boys that I know personally. Never with a politician or mum and dad like this. Brothers have picked up little bits. Mum still has all my letters that I sent back, but my sister's got them. She kept them in the glory box.
I understand why you wouldn't talk about it to anybody, but there must be some thoughts or stories that you'd want to share before you're gone. Is there anything that you can think of that you'd want people to know about when it comes to Vietnam?
No, not really. I haven't done anything really dishonourable or... Well, my dad went away a sergeant, he came back a private, and no one knows the story there. He either stole a jeep or snotted a colonel.
I reckon he snotted someone.
To go a sergeant and come back a private. Mum doesn't even know really, but there'd be a record in Canberra.
He must have done something right.
Exactly.